Yo, what's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we've got a brand new video talking about something that has been a big focal point on the channel, and that would be Bitcoin. I just want to make this video talking about, why it's very important for people to have Bitcoin and hold it, and what it can do for everyone in general, and why it is going to be so important, and why it's something that everyone needs to have. So we're going to jump right into it and talk about the great things that Bitcoin offers. And the first thing it would be is changing how the world works, and like changing how finance works, like being the future of finance. So Bitcoin by itself can change how finance works by putting trust back into the system without the need of a third party. Because right now, if you want to send money or receive money digitally, you need to do it through a bank or through a third party that does it for you to kind of keep the records and do all of that work. And you have to pay either the fees that come along with it or the wait times, where if you ever transferred money from a bank account to a bank account, even if it's your own bank accounts in different banks, then it takes a few days compared to Bitcoin that could take 30 minutes. So people say Bitcoin's slow, but it's a lot faster than the banking system we have right now. And it also gives you control over your money. And something we saw in 2017 with Bitcoin itself was the big payment giants like Visa stopped allowing payments to go to crypto exchanges to buy Bitcoin or buy any crypto. So they controlled your money in that sense. With Bitcoin, nobody can tell you what you can and can't do with it. No one can stop you from sending money from one place to another. No one can tell you can't do that, can stop you from doing that. You can do it if you want to. And I think that's something that people don't realize is a big deal until it happens to them. Like, we've seen it in places before where if you go to the bank in history, if you went to a bank, you wouldn't be able to pull your money out. They would freeze accounts, they wouldn't allow you to send money, they wouldn't allow you to spend money. It does get messy once it gets to that point, and Bitcoin can't get to that point because no one can tell you that you can't send Bitcoin or you can't withdraw your Bitcoin on the blockchain. If you have it in a centralized location, then they can freeze your accounts, but this is Bitcoin itself. Like, if you hold Bitcoin in cold storage, you're on the blockchain, and if you want to send it, you can send it anywhere you want, and if you want to receive it, you can do the same way. And looking at traditional finances, like traditional finance markets, the stock market and stuff, we saw during this crash before that Bitcoin operated as a true free market, where it crashed, it fell hard, and then it rebounded and came back, and it is where it is today without any outside intervention. There was no Fed that came along to pump liquidity into the market to stop the crashing, to stop the bleeding, and to help prices recover. There wasn't an intervention like that with Bitcoin. It was truly free, and it operated perfectly and rebounded perfectly as well. So that's another huge point that is great for this market right now, is that it didn't need an outside source to survive. It showed that it is not something that is going to be wiped out, because if it was something that was going to get wiped out, it would have already been gone, because people would have pulled out all the money and it would be practically worthless right now. But people believe in it. Bitcoin has a reason to be around, and crypto in general has a reason to be around, and the market's already proved that. The second thing that Bitcoin's got for it is real supply and demand. There is a fixed number of Bitcoin at 21 million that will ever exist. You cannot get more than that. You can't print more Bitcoin. You can only have 21 million, and if there's not enough to go around, then the price has to go up until someone's willing to sell Bitcoin to someone else who wants it that badly. When you just go over the numbers, you can see with only 21 million Bitcoins in creation that will ever be created, and it's technically less than that because we know there's like 3 or 4 million that's gone forever. They're just lost, and people sent them the wrong addresses, and they're just gone. So, but taking 21 million, there isn't even enough Bitcoin for every millionaire in the world to have one Bitcoin. So to put that in perspective shows how scarce it is, and if you have Bitcoin now, you are super early, and once people start flocking to it, and it's been exponentially growing. The Bitcoin network has been exponentially growing and adding users. It's at like 100 million users right now, You know, and the same FUD we're seeing was people like FUDding about the internet when the internet first started coming around. So we're still early, and it's insane to see the growth of Bitcoin and to know that we're still, you know, so early. So it's great to see, and the limited supply actually gives you something to look at and judge the market on, because you have one item that's fixed, which is supply, and then you can judge the market, what you think it's going to do, by like demand. So if you have supply, demand, you know supply and you don't know demand, it's easier to judge demand based on like how everyone's talking about it, how much it's coming up in news cycles. Not if it's a positive or negative press, but if it's being talked about, that means there's demand for it. So it's a lot easier to judge that and to see if the market's going to be going up or down in the short term. In the long term, we know Bitcoin's taking over. So the more demand that comes to Bitcoin, the less there is to go around. It's that simple, and that by itself brings the value of Bitcoin up, of each individual Bitcoin. And then because of more demand coming in, it brings the security of the network up along with it. So everything benefits Bitcoin in this scenario, because the more people that flock to it, the price goes up, and that helps people who are focused on the price. And then the security of the network goes up, and that helps people who want Bitcoin to succeed and actually do what it can do. And the third thing is more of an investor's site on this, and that is Bitcoin is a new dimension for diversification. So that's a big word that everyone throws around, is diversify your portfolio to make sure that everything's safe and you're not reliant on one sector to make all your money, because that's how you could lose a lot of money as well. So with Bitcoin, it's something that a lot of people are going to have to add to their portfolios for the strict reason that it's uncorrelated to everything. It's not related to the stock market. It's not related to any type of market. It's its own thing. And if the stock market's going down, Bitcoin can be going up, and that will level out your portfolio and limit losses. And then vice versa. If Bitcoin's going down, the stock market can be going up, and then that'll limit your losses in your portfolio as well. And then the best part would be the stock market goes up and Bitcoin goes up, and now you're just making all the money, making tons of profit, and it's the best scenario for everyone. And it's a reason that higher net worth people, companies should start integrating Bitcoin like we've seen already, but a lot more should start coming on, because it's uncorrelated and it's something that they can hold and is dependent on itself, not dependent on another market, on a government, on policies. It's something that can just does its own thing and doesn't have to depend on another thing. So it protects your money in a diversified way, like everyone likes to talk about. So even though this is more of like an investor's point of view of why they should hold Bitcoin, it does still bring security to the network. It brings the price of Bitcoin up, more eyes, and that cycle repeats itself. But the most important part about Bitcoin isn't necessarily the monetary side and the money side, where you can think that you're making a bunch of fiat dollars. You can look at Bitcoin and see that it's very important that it is freedom of money, something that is uncensorable, unconfiscatable, and decentralized. Those are the things that make Bitcoin what it is and why it's so important, but it's also the reason that it makes a great diversified bet or a diversified asset in an investor's portfolio. And fourth, we have Bitcoin becoming a safe haven asset. So during this crash that we saw where everything fell, things collapsed, during a time where gold should have performed the best because it is a safe haven asset, Bitcoin actually performed much, much better. So people kind of realizing Bitcoin's a safe haven asset, something where you can put your money in uncertain times, and it's becoming that asset class because of it being scarce, because of it being unconfiscatable, and something that you can move very easily across the globe. It's not hard to move, it's not expensive to move, it's not hard to guard, you don't really have to guard it like you would with gold. So the times are changing and people are actually realizing how much of a safe haven Bitcoin can be, as well as the safe haven that turned out like in the first month or two of the crash and the pandemic was cash. You know, everyone pulled their money out into cash and just held that. And once we started seeing the Fed step in and start pumping money into the markets, providing liquidity and making printing money pretty much, we started to see, you know, people jump back into the stock market. We saw, you know, we're at record valuations right now. During that time, it did seem like cash was a safe place to have, but because of the policies that came in, because of the liquidity given from the Fed and all of these things, the dollar is scared. People are scared of devaluation, of inflation, of the dollar. So I think that if anything uncertain happens again, where people will just assume the Fed's going to come in and save the day for equity markets and stuff like that, they might start flooding to Bitcoin because you can't create more Bitcoin. That's one of the greatest things about it. 21 million Bitcoin are ever going to be available, and you cannot make more. So if you have any amount of Bitcoin, it can't be devalued in Bitcoin terms because there can't be more created. If you have 1 Bitcoin out of 21 million, you will always have 1 out of 21 million. You will never have 1 out of 22 million because there will not be more Bitcoin created. And then number 5 goes along with that, kind of talking about how Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation and government policy. So if governments get out of control with monetary policy, Bitcoin is something to kind of keep that in check, where if they get too out of control and start devaluing currencies, people will flock to Bitcoin, and obviously the price of Bitcoin will go up and all that, but it will also hedge against these monetary policies of any country. And we've seen it happen in places like Zimbabwe, where they had hyperinflation. They just started printing money, and they have a $100 trillion bill that is worth about 40 cents. So it literally will not buy you a loaf of bread, and people carry around wheelbarrows of money that they try and spend as fast as possible because the money gets worthless more and more every day. And then you don't want policies where the governments can go to banks and tell them to freeze people's accounts or just simply take people's money to pay off debts. There's a country we're seeing that. I think it was Greece, or I think we were seeing it in history before in like the EU and stuff. But we have seen it. I'm not sure exactly what countries where the government took money from people's bank accounts to pay off debt, and then there's nothing you can do about it because the government has that right to just do that. And that's the scary part about money and banks, where comparing to Bitcoin, no one can come in and take your Bitcoin without you giving permission and giving it to them. No one can take it from you. So that's another great thing. And we have to be talking about having Bitcoin yourself, not on a centralized exchange. They could take Bitcoin from you. If you have it at a centralized place, the controller of that exchange or platform, whatever it is, can technically take your Bitcoin. And that's why trust is a big deal in where we're seeing like crypto banks pop up and stuff, and crypto exchanges. Trust is a big deal. We've seen money go missing and Bitcoin go missing from exchanges, and you don't really want to see that again. So if you have your own control of your own Bitcoin, then no one can take it from you forcefully. You have to give it to them if you want to. That's the only way. So guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think of Bitcoin, if you think that these 5 reasons are good enough to have Bitcoin, or if you think one of them doesn't make sense, or if there's another reason, let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. You're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. See you guys in my next video.